Hi guys, this is Navin Bafna from Singapore Commercial Space. We specialize in commercial properties in Singapore for last 8 years. In this episode, we are talking about shophouses, the trophy assets of the ultra rich. Shophouses is the most sought after asset for family offices, fund houses, as well as the ex-HNIs. The super rich of Singapore are the ones who invest in shophouses. The shophouse market is very different from any other commercial market, not only in Singapore but across the world. I remember talking to a fund manager a few years ago, and he was telling me that Singapore shophouses are one of the most hidden assets in the world. Now, what is the beauty of shophouses? Compared to industrial or office or retail, you can't construct a shophouse. Whatever shophouses are there. Nobody makes a new shophouses. So that means you have a supply which can never be increased. You have a limited supply across Singapore. Let me explain you how the shophouse segments are, what are the different categories, and then we talk about the pricing, the rental, and different usage of shophouses. Primarily, Singapore shophouses are divided into two parts. So you have primary conservation and secondary settlement. Primary conservation are the most sought after shophouses because most of these shophouses are in the CBD, the Amoy Street, An Siang Hill, Tanjong Pagar Road. These are the most sought after shophouses. What is the meaning? Primary conservation shophouses means that you cannot change the facade. You cannot increase or decrease the build-up. You have to manage. It's heritage asset. It's under conservation. You have a URA law which protects these shophouses. There are in total 6,500 of these shophouses. Now, a misconception is that only commercial shophouses are primary conservation. No. Primary conservation shophouses can have residential as well as fully commercial shophouses within. As I told you, 6,500, between 6,500 to 7,000 shophouses in total in the whole Singapore for primary conservation. And if the primary conservation shophouse is fully commercial, that's where the pricing is at the highest. So the most sought after shophouse asset in Singapore is primary conservation and fully commercial. We come to the secondary settlement. What is secondary settlement? Secondary settlement shophouses, for layman, you can construct it. So you have a land area and you will have a plot ratio. Generally the plot ratio is 4.2, example. And you can build up to, there would be a height restriction. Depending on where the asset is, that will decide what could be the height. Generally, it could be 6 floors, it could be 4 floors, and that will depend on the location and the URA zoning. Basically, secondary settlement shophouses are the ones where you can increase the build-up. You can add stories. Where are they? You will find most of them in Upper Circular, Hong Kong Street, Carpenter Street, some place in South Bridge Road. You will also have them in Little India, the main areas of secondary settlement shophouses. This is where the demand is. One more difference between primary and secondary. As I told you, in primary conservation shophouses, you cannot increase the build-up. What is there has to be kept as it is. So when you are buying a primary conservation shophouse, you are buying on the build-up because whatever is there cannot be changed. So when you buy according to the build-up of the shophouse. A lot of people actually asked me, should we use the pricing of the land of a shophouse? And I think no, it's wrong. You have to use the build-up when you are buying a primary conservation shophouse. For secondary settlement, it's very simple. Let's say the land is 2,000 square feet and your plot ratio is 4.2. 2,000 square feet of land area multiplied by the plot ratio 4.2. 8,400 is your gross floor area. So when you are buying a secondary settlement shophouse, you are paying based on that 8,400 square feet of gross floor area. Yes, there would be construction cost. If the shophouse is a 99-year lease, in case of Hong Kong Street example, you may have to pay the price of a lease top-up. So when you are buying a secondary settlement shophouse and when you are buying a primary conservation shophouse, the pricing and how you define the pricing may be a bit different. Let me give you a more holistic picture of how we look at different shophouses in a different manner. So as I told you, number one, primary conservation shophouses. and you have secondary settlement. Now in this category, you can also have categories which is freehold or 99-year lease. So you can have a secondary settlement shop house which could be freehold or it could be a 99-year lease. Example, Hong Kong Street. You will find some secondary settlement shop houses in Hong Kong Street where the lease is only 99-year lease. And let's say if you are going to buy and reconstruct it, you may actually think about topping up the lease to 99 years. So there's a cost which you have to pay to top up the lease back to 99 years. This is a very big number to decide when you are buying a secondary settlement shop house for reconstruction. The first way to define a shop house or segregate the shop houses are primary conservation and secondary settlement. There's another way to do it, which is based on zoning. That's the second way of defining a shop house. So based on zoning, there are three different types of shop houses. You have fully commercial shop house, you have a mixed shop house, and you have a residential shop house. All this depends on the zoning. Zonings can be found as per URA master plan. If it is a fully commercial shop houses, the pricing is definitely going to be much higher than a residential shop house. In terms of mix, what happens is the lower floor, the ground floor is commercial, but the first floor, second floor and the third floor is actually residential. You may find these shop houses in Little India. You can find them in East Coast, a lot of in Tanjong Katong area, where the ground floor, the first level on the street is actually commercial, but you have people living above residential. And the third is residential zoning. How the pricings are defined? Giving you an example. So if you are a primary conservation shop house, you can have a primary conservation fully commercial shop house. That's the best. That's the best category, the most expensive category to own a shop house. Why? Because foreigners can only buy a fully commercial shop house. If it's a mix, they cannot buy it. They cannot own a residential component because a shop house is basically on the land, and foreigners, non-Singaporeans, are not allowed to buy land in Singapore. So shop houses included. Residential shop house, definitely not. Even for mixed shop houses, there's very rarely that you can get a permission from URA to buy a mixed zoning shop house in Singapore. Now, one question I keep getting, can PRs buy or not? PRs also cannot buy. PRs are also considered to be foreigners. Only Singaporeans can buy mixed zoning shop houses or residential shop houses. So you have realized what are the different types of shop houses. I'm trying to summarize it again. So we have two broad-based categories. We had the first way to define a shop house: primary conservation, secondary settlement. The second way is based on zoning. You have full commercial, mixed and residential. All in all, 6,500 primary conservation shop houses in Singapore, and the category to make money is primary conservation fully commercial. This is the asset class where the fund houses, the family offices, the ex-HNIs, the super rich of the world wants to have a pie of. These are the assets which you have in Ann Siang Hill, Amoy Street, Chinatown, Pagoda Street, Tanjong Pagar Road, your Kampong Glam. Basically, these are the heritage and the conserved assets of Singapore. These are the assets which URA want to keep for future generations, to remember the history of Singapore. Now we come to the pricing. Now, very, very important to know how you define or how you come to a pricing of a shop house. When it comes to shop houses, you have to remember it's all about location, location and location. Once you know the location, you can exactly know what are the pricing. Right now, for example, your Amoy Street, your Ann Siang Hills are going around 4,000 PSF approximately. Whereas when you come to Tanjong Pagar, it could be 3,500 and approx. When you go to Pagoda Street, Chinatown, they would have a separate pricing. So the location will solely determine the prices of shop houses if it is primary conservation, fully commercial. The other way, or the other most important factor which will define the prices of a shop house is what is the usage allowed. Now, I'm sure you would have realized that some shop houses have retail on the ground floor or the first floor street level, and some has F&B approvals. How it changes everything? If you have an F&B approvals, the rental for F&B would definitely be higher than retail. And the rental of retail will definitely be higher than an office. So if you have a ground floor shop house with F&B permission, you will be able to get more rental from the asset. Second is retail, third is office. So usage of the shop houses are very, very important when you want to buy or determine a value to buy that asset, and that will depend what would be your future rentals. I remember a case study which I would like to tell people about it, that why it is so important that you give a lot of thought in usage. There's one case specifically which I would like to discuss with all shop house buyers. If you are looking, always remember to check the usage of a shop house. Few years ago there was a case in Ansiang Hill when a buyer went on to buy a shop house for his own use. He wanted to convert the whole shop house into an office. He bought the option, he exercised it. Only after the exercise he realized that the whole shop house cannot be converted into an office use. The ground floor, the street level, was actually an F&B, and URA was not ready to convert that F&B into an office space because they wanted to rejuvenate Ansiang Hill. In the end, the buyer had no choice and he has to back out of the deal. It was a messed up situation between the seller and the buyer, but it teaches a lot of things. When you are buying for a certain purpose, you please check what is the usage, what is the lease top up, are there any rules in terms of conservation, non-conservation. There's one personal tip which I always tell people: if you are buying a shop house, make sure that there is no bus stop in front of the shop house, because the moment you have a bus stop and there is an F&B, the traffic to the F&B may go down. These are very, very small tips, but they are very important if you are buying a $10 million or a $20 million asset. And Singapore shop houses, if you are buying a primary conservation shop houses, there's nothing much you can do about it. There's nothing much you can change. So finding the right location and positioning of the shop house, where it is in the middle of the road or in the corner of the road. Corner of the road will be always good. If you have a car park next to it, especially if you have a very high-end F&B, people will come and they need to park the cars. So it all adds up. So if you are buying a shop house, make sure you understand what are the zonings, what is it, a primary conservation, secondary settlement, what can you do, what are the usages, and then we discuss on the price, and then we look at the price. Price comes a bit later because that will decide of how much rental can you increase in the future or whether you can increase or not. If you need more help or you need to ask some questions about your assets, want to understand more about shop houses in Singapore, you can drop us a message. This is Navin Bafna from Singapore Commercial Space. Thank you so much for watching the video. See you next time.